This Friday, January 26th, differences between the Republican governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, and Washington intensified. The cause of all this tension is the decision of the Supreme Court of the United States regarding the barbed wire barriers that the state of Texas placed on its border with Mexico to prevent the entry of illegal immigrants. According to the Supreme Court, Texas does not have jurisdiction to place these border barriers, as the responsibility for border control and security lies with the federal government and not the states. However, the governor of Texas challenged the Supreme Court's understanding of the barriers, going so far as to block the passage of federal border agents. Greg Abbott ordered the Texas National Guard, reporting directly to his command, to block the passage of federal agents who were heading to the border to remove barriers. The issue now is that if these federal agents are ordered to move in and remove the barriers put up by the governor of Texas, and if the Texas National Guard is ordered to stop this, things could get out of control and escalate into a conflict between the Texas state and federal forces. And this raises a very important question. Can all this really develop into open conflict? Some sources, especially those more alarmist, say yes. But first of all, we need to understand where the responsibility of United States governors begins and ends, and also who actually controls the armed forces of each state. In the United States, each state has a high level of autonomy to decide many issues, from those related to taxes and fees to public security issues, such as whether or not to apply the death penalty. However, in some areas, what the federal government determines must be followed by the states, and some responsibilities are assumed by the federal government, as is the case with security and border control. The big problem is that for some states, such as Governor Greg Abbott's Texas, the federal government is doing a terrible job in this area. And in fact, when we look at the numbers, we see that the year 2023 was one of the worst years in history in terms of illegal immigration. In December 2023 alone, the U.S. Border Patrol, the federal agency responsible for border protection, arrested more than 225,000 illegal immigrants trying to enter the United States via the border with Mexico, a record number. This means that another hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants most likely managed to cross, and that was only in the month of December. And when we look at the illegal immigration data during the Biden administration, we clearly see that it is much higher than that of the Obama and Trump administrations. And even in the face of this large flow of immigrants, Washington, through its federal agency, tries to prevent states from reinforcing their borders, since this task, as I said, would be a federal responsibility and not a state responsibility. In the case of Texas, the police force that Governor Greg Abbott is employing to reinforce the border with Mexico is the National Guard, a reserve military force, which, unlike the regular armed forces which are federal, these are state. In other words, each governor can call on his National Guard to assist security forces in missions such as support in natural disasters or internal riots. But in the case of Texas, the National Guard was used to reinforce the border with Mexico in an attempt to prevent illegal immigrants from entering. And this, the Supreme Court considered illegal, which caused tensions between Texas and Washington. A tension that increased recently when some other states, also governed by Republicans, signed a letter supporting the Texan governor's initiative. Now, could these tensions lead the United States to an internal armed conflict? For me, if things really get out of control, the worst that can happen is small conflicts in isolated areas and nothing more, especially if the federals receive orders to advance and remove the barriers, and on the other side, some more altered commander of the Texas National Guard decides to shoot them down. But civil war, as occurred between 1861 and 1865, which killed more than 500,000 people in the country, is unlikely to happen. The Texas National Guard knows that if they act violently against federal border agents, they will be prosecuted at the federal level, and if convicted, could face very heavy prison sentences. There is, at least for now, no coalition of states willing to support something like this. So what's happening in Texas is, at least for now, just a disagreement. Of course, more serious small conflicts can happen, as I already said. But for the reasons I highlighted here, I do not believe it will evolve into a major conflict, much less into a civil war. And you, What do you think of all this? Thank you for watching and see you soon.